Well, good afternoon, everyone. To begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Lekwungen people, specifically the Esquimalt Nation and Songhees Nation, whose historic relationships with the land and sea continue to this day. My name is Ian Robertson. I'm the CEO of the Greater Victoria Harbour Authority. We are a not-for-profit organization and the owner of this space, the Breakwater District at Ogden Point in beautiful Victoria, British Columbia. We are very pleased to welcome back to the Victoria Cruise Terminal the vessels and crew for the ocean cleanup. Thank you for choosing Victoria as your home base for this project. We look forward to continuing our work and relationship with you in the future. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Joost Dubois, Director of Communications, who will MC the balance of this afternoon. Joost, welcome.
Thank you very much, Ian. Hello and welcome to Victoria, everybody. Viewers online, live visitors here, and representatives of the media. My name is Joost Dubois, and I will be moderating the press conference and the live stream. We've gathered here in Victoria, and on behalf of the Ocean Cleanup, I first would like to thank the Greater Victoria Harbour Authority and Western Stevedoring for their hospitality, not just today, but over the past couple of months. Today is about celebrating our team's success after years of hard work, and to welcome our crews who are returning after being out at sea for 12 weeks. Our program is simple and short. We'll have some remarks from our Director Ocean, and after that there will be our CEO, followed by some media Q&A, and the live stream will end after those media Q&As. After that, for the press folks, there will be a private media tour on Maersk Tender to meet the crew and to get an opportunity to see the fresh catch firsthand. Tender is the nearest one of the vessels behind me. Maersk Trader is further down the pier, and two vessels and their crews have been crucial in helping our Oceans project reach a major tipping point. We are now confident to claim proof of technology. So I would like to invite Henk van Dalen, Director Oceans, to walk you through a short review of what happened during the campaign. Henk, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, a very warm welcome to all people here in the beautiful Victoria, and also a warm welcome to all our viewers online. It's a very special moment to be standing here today, and something we're very happy we can celebrate with you all. Just a moment, please. For us, we've worked with a lot of dedication on this project, and we all have a deep-rooted passion to really make sure we preserve the beauties of the ocean. And therefore, we're very happy to say that our hard work has really made it all come together. Today here, we're going to announce proof of technology, and from that, we can really continue our operations to clean up the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Now, before I go into the details of the project, I would just like to take a moment to thank the people and the parties which made it all happen today. This is a special thank you to all our followers, the supporters, the volunteers, our suppliers and partners, where I specifically would like to thank the offshore partner Maersk and the support of the Canadian and Dutch government. Thank you all for your collaborative effort to pull it all together and make this project a success. Now, a few times we have already mentioned the term proof of technology. But what does this actually mean? In short, it means that we've completed a thorough test campaign with our experimental system number 2 with successful results. We have seen that the system safely interacted with marine life during the offshore campaign. We have also validated the data to confirm that this is a scalable solution. And most importantly, we have shown that we are capable to repeatedly harvest large amounts of plastic. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Those moments where you really see that much plastic come out of the ocean are very satisfactory to us all. Now, our experimental system number 2 deserved a nickname, and we named her Jenny. This comes from the Forrest Gump movie, which you all may know, and during a certain scene in the movie, Forrest, he buys an unnamed vessel, and he starts to try to capture shrimp. He's not successful in this, but then he decides to name the vessel Jenny. And after this, as if it's a divine intervention, he starts to capture loads of shrimp, and his future really flourishes from there. Well, for us, system number 2, we believed that was our Jenny. And it proved out to be the case. Of course, there is the part where Forrest captures shrimp and we capture plastics. And he needed a bit of fate, and we had thorough design, engineering, and research helping us along the way. Now, Jenny is the result of our technology development plan, where we use fast cycle of learnings to really build on the lessons learned of previous offshore campaigns. She consists of 2 vessels, 2 Maersk vessels, which tow an 800-meter long retention system through the water. Plastic enters through the open end of the system and is transported along the lines to the end part of the system. Plastic is held or prevented from escaping due to flotation parts on the top and a 3-meter deep netting arrangement below the water column. The plastic then transports along the sides to the retention zone, and this is where the plastic accumulates and is retained. This part is then pulled onto the back deck of the vessel and extracted here on deck. We carefully sort the plastics and make sure that they are safely stored in containers so we can offload these onshore for further processing. Now, the area we operate in, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, is huge. It's twice the size of Texas, which is in Houston. The system uses active propulsion, and this really allows us to cover a wide area of ocean, but it also helps us to keep the system in areas of high-density plastic. So now with system number 2, just one moment. So the System 2 campaign was really, apologies here, Jenny's design philosophy was really built around the fact where we wanted to design for the best but prepare for the worst. And our retention system was doing exactly that. We understand that she interacts with marine life, and we wanted to make sure that we were integrating mitigation measures to prevent unwanted interaction with marine life. But on the other hand, we wanted to be sure that we capture the plastic. Now, in preparation of our offshore campaign, we conducted an environmental impact assessment, which allowed us to use mitigation measures during our offshore operations and prepare for a monitoring campaign, which we did offshore. Now, despite that we had a very positive outcome, we are going to continue the monitoring during future campaigns to make sure that we can continue to operate safely in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Now, Jenny's test campaign is now completed. The vessels have arrived here back on shore, and we've captured 29,000 kilograms of plastic. We are going to shift from a testing mindset to a harvesting operation now, and we're going to continue our operations in the field starting tomorrow. Now, meanwhile, in the office, we are working on the design of the follow-up system, system number 3. We want to expand the size of the system so we can effectively capture more plastic. And also our models show that if we have 10 of these systems, we will be able to clean the Great Pacific Garbage Patch effectively. Now today, I want to end my talk with giving credit where credit is due. All the successes you see here today are thanks to the great, exceptional, and hardworking people at the Ocean Cleanup. The team here really works with full commitment and is very dedicated to our mission to clean the oceans of plastic. I thank them all for the hard work they do, and I'm very proud to be part of this team. And finally, the offshore crew. These are the people who leave the comfort of their home and really go on an offshore adventure for a long period of time and have to deal in very challenging environment with the problems that are thrown upon them. They have shown during the test campaign great commitment, dedication, and flexibility to pull it all together. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to ask you to help me give the crew a warm welcome here back ashore. Please give a round of applause for the offshore crew.
Okay. One more round for these guys, please. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, crew. Thank you very much, Henk. I would like to give the stage to Bojan Slat. Thank you, gentlemen. Bojan, our CEO and founder, Bojan Slat.
Yeah. What a great day. Thanks all for being here. It's yeah, this is a day we've all been looking forward to for all these years. That I've personally been looking forward to for the past 10 years. So yeah, it's just kind of have to pinch myself that it's actually the day that we've completed the testing. We've achieved working system, proven technology, and that we're now going out tomorrow to actually go and harvest trash. So it's really great. I think first and foremost, again, huge credits to the whole offshore crew, not just these guys, but the guys who are still on the ships. They've really did a tremendous job. Life offshore, it's hard. I know some of them for sure have been offshore for the past 12 weeks, which is really hard to imagine. So yeah, actually I know your hands are pretty sore now, but I would like to ask for another round of applause for these amazing guys. So yeah, so what you see behind us now in the containers and still on the ship as well is the 29,000 kilos of trash that has been collected during the test phase. And yeah, it's really, when you see it, and hopefully some of you will get the opportunity to see the trash in a bit, it's really hard to imagine that all that stuff just used to float out there in the middle of the ocean, 2,000 kilometers offshore. It still would have floated out there, 10 years from now, 50 years from now, probably even 100 years from now. This stuff is so persistent, and that's, of course, precisely the reason why we have to go and clean it up. I mean, we don't want to do this, but if the plastic would just magically go away, that would be brilliant. But it doesn't. It's persistent, and I think that's why also there should be no debate between should we do prevention, should we do cleanup. I mean, we have to do both. That's the only way to get back to clean oceans, and of course we are doing both at the same time at the moment. So when you think about 29,000 kilos, of course, you might say, what's 29,000 kilos? That's a tiny amount, and yeah, of course that's true. It's it's compared to the 100 million kilos that are still out there, but of course the point is this was a test campaign, and that's why these 29,000 kilos are the most important kilos we're ever going to collect, because these 29,000 kilos prove to us that we can also collect the under 100 million kilos that are still out there as well. So ultimately, of course, we are returning now, and we're going to scale this up as we go over the years to come. And I think ultimately, if we just collect this amount of plastic 3,000 times, the garbage patch will be gone, and will just exist in the history books. And yeah, and I think what we now see with the initial observations, we can do this. If we just make the system a bit bigger, and we have 10 of them out there, we can clean up the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. So yeah, looking back, it's been quite a journey. I mean, I thought this would take maybe a few years to get to this point, and now here we are 10 years later. So, and not just the duration, but also we had some really intense moments, some tough periods along the way too. And I remember just after I learned about this Great Pacific Garbage Patch, and I wanted to learn more about it, because I thought, let's go clean this up. And so I contacted some people to have a conversation with people who had studied the problem already, and all of them told me, forget about it. There's no way you can do this. It's going to be out there forever. It's impossible to clean it up. The best thing we can do, great news, the best thing we can do is not make it worse. I thought, that's not really great news. I mean, everyone wants the future to be better than the present. So I thought it was pretty depressing message. So then I thought, let's just give it a try. Founded the Ocean Cleanup. And of course, from the very beginning, we had a lot of doubters. And honestly, I think they're kind of right about that, because we really didn't know what we were doing those first those first years. It's just yeah, we did it. And honestly, I too doubted many times whether we would ever ever get to this point. We had so many close calls. We had we almost ran out of money a few times. We had these tests that kept failing. We had these dead ends that we encountered with actually several concepts that were turned out to be dead ends. So and probably the low point in all of this was when we took out System 1, Wilson. It was 2018, and we had such high hopes for this machine. I mean, we had done so much modeling, so many scale model tests, all these scientific campaigns, expeditions to the patch to try and model it and understand the problem. And yeah, we took it out, and then it didn't collect plastic, and then 2.5 months later, it broke into two. So that was, it took a lot of work to climb out of that one. And but yeah, fortunately we did. We then launched a second iteration we called System 1B. That did collect some plastic, 2019, but then turned out we will never be able to clean the Great Pacific Garbage Patch with that system. It's just not going to scale. It's too small. You need way too many systems. So really at the start of this System 2 campaign, which was in August of this year, a lot depended on the system. It was really, stakes were super high. So we took it out, we deployed it, did the first test in, just 2.5 months ago. And this was a 2-hour test, the first test. And we took it out, and there was 100 kilos of plastic in there. And then we were like, okay, if you kind of extrapolate that, 100 kilos in 2 hours, that's about 1,500 kilos per day. Well, that's, for this system of this size, that's actually nominal. That's what we would expect. That's good. So we're kind of cautiously optimistic, but also, we know 2 hours is not very statistically significant, right? So we were careful to not really celebrate that. So then we were excited for the second test. Second test, 12 hours, full night. We took it out, and again, 100 kilos. So yeah, then we kind of went from here to there, and that was, and then, so of course 100 kilos in 12 hours, it's not very good. And then the camera skiff that's on the system, which is there to monitor for protected species, that broke down, and we had to debug it, and it actually took almost 3 weeks to get the system back up and running, back out there. During all this time, we were like, oh, well, we have another one of these systems that doesn't work. And so we deployed it again, this time for a 2-day test, and we took it out. And then, it was morning, the Netherlands. I woke up in the morning, and I look at my phone, and I see a bunch of missed calls. I see that I have like 50 text messages. So it's like, okay, either something really bad happened there, or something really good. So I opened it, and then I saw this photo of this mountain of plastic on deck, and I mean, I still get goosebumps just thinking back about that moment. That was, I don't think I've ever been happier, and that was for sure the best morning of my life. I mean, seeing that was just such a relief. And then we did it again, and we did it again, and we did it again, and then we had the amazing 9,000 kilo extraction a few weeks ago, and now we're here. So that was sort of in a nutshell the journey we went through. And yeah, kind of reflecting on this milestone, I think is really something everyone around the world can be proud of. I think this is really a success for humanity. I think to me this signifies an age when we're starting to correct the issues and the problems we ourselves have created. And these days, I think there's a lot of fatalism going around, especially when you hear people talking about the environment. And I think, yes, there are real problems out there. But hopefully, I think if we can clean up the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, the symbol of everything that's wrong today, I think it's just going to be such an inspiring thing. And hopefully soon, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch will be this thing you can point to, not as an example of things that are wrong with the world, but really as an example that we can solve the big problems that we're facing today. So, I mean, last but not least, I just really want to thank everyone who's been involved with this project. I mean, the amazing team at the Ocean Cleanup, our friends at Maersk, and all our other key partners. They've really done a tremendous job. So really thank you for holding on all this time. It's been, you know, it's not been easy, as I just said, but it's really been an honor to work together. And yeah, it's incredible what a small group of people that are, you know, passionate about this, that are skilled, can achieve. When you think about the Ocean Cleanup, we're a small nonprofit. There's 100 people working for us. There's just about 25 in the core team for the Ocean Project. So it's really kind of a tiny group of people who made this possible. I'd also like to use this opportunity to thank our supporters, our followers who supported us all this way when nothing was working yet, when everyone called us idiots for even trying. And yeah, I mean, it's to this day, I mean, it still astounds me to think, you know, this is people who we've never met, just sending us money, sending us support. We'll never get used to that. So really, you know, big thanks to everyone who, you know, keeps sharing our posts and, you know, has supported us through the first crowdfunding campaign in all these years. It's yeah, it fills me with a lot of hope. So yeah, for now, I think thanks again to everyone. Thanks all for you for joining us here today. I think this is a great day for the ocean, and yeah, let this mark the beginning of the end for the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Thank you.
Thank you, Boyan. That was wonderful. We got time for some Q&A until the neighbors of Helijet are going to stop our conversation. So we have a microphone up there for members of the press. If there's any questions, please give us our name and your connection. Yes?
Hi there, I'm Kylie. I'm with Global News.
Hi, Kylie.
I'm just wondering if you can give us sort of some tangible, speak to the tangible things that were collected in terms of plastics that people that, you know, are inland or on land might be able to relate to, so we get an idea of, you know, what we're doing here at home and what's being transported to the middle of the ocean.
Sure. Yeah, so if you will have the opportunity to see the trash in a bit, and most of the stuff we collect is fishing gear, so that has the highest probability of actually making it out to the garbage patch to last there. So you see a lot of buoys and crates and nets, but we also see some stuff that clearly comes from land. So we see things like, you know, toothbrushes, we see handles of umbrellas, we see toys, we caught a fridge as well, mannequin, any other toilet. Toilet seats are very, very common in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. So it's like modern day archaeology out there. And you know, maybe one day we should make like a little exhibition or museum out of what we collect. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah.
Hi, this is Carla Wilson from the Times Colonist newspaper. When you say you're going out tomorrow, I'm wondering what scope or scale of operation you're planning, and how long you'll be out for, and what you're going to be doing in coming years as far as how much money are you going to be needing, like what's next?
So tomorrow the crew is going to depart as mentioned, and what we do then is 6-week rotas harvesting plastic in the field. And I think for the operations we've done thus far, it's really about validating the concept and making sure that we're comfortable in the way it works and the way it acts with the environment and the amount of plastics it catches. Now those results have been good, and therefore we're going to head out tomorrow to extend our operations, but the focus there is really going to be on harvesting plastics. So we're going to enter into a period where the weather gets more adverse. So we're heading into a more winter season with higher waves and higher winds. So that's also a good learning curve for us. And we're going to extend our mission a minimum of 2 trips now moving forward, but the outlook is to continue operations for the full year next year as well. Now, meanwhile, we're designing the next system, and that really should be the prototype for the fleet moving forward. And then we hope by a few years to come that we really start ramping up to a fleet of systems which clean up the patch as a whole.
Expectations as far as timing, years to clean up the patch, and how much is it going to cost?
So the mission remains 90% of the plastics out by 2040. And that's really the objective we're heading for. We're currently in a phase where we have proof of technology. The next step is to move towards a fleet. And then when the fleet is established, we expect that it will take quite a while to clean up the whole patch. But by 2040, that's really the ambition we set ourselves. Do you care to address that?
Yeah, maybe just to add to that. So yeah, I think indeed ambition is to keep System 2 out there as long as possible until we have better systems, System 3. But I think in the meantime, we already start to look for ways, not just to collect more data with System 2, but also to already try and incorporate some components of System 3 in the operation that we have here, so that we, so we can quicker get to the point that we have System 3 out there. So.
Yeah, I've been watching my phone, not because I'm very impolite, because I get some questions from the media that are online. So we'll get to you right after this, but. Area Bendix from Business Insider asks, how long did it take to collect the 29,000 kilos, and what do you plan to do with the items that cannot be recycled into sunglasses?
Yeah, so so one thing that we've learned in the past 2 trips is that the garbage patch is very heterogeneous. So what we mean with that is that there's some places where you see a lot of density, a very dense concentration of plastic, and there's other places where we don't see a lot of plastic. So we have different computer models that we try and predict these, what we call hotspots. And actually, the different models we see kind of predict these locations in different places. So we're trying to test out these different models to see which one is the best representation of reality. And and then what we see sometimes you're in places where you just collect 2,000 kilos per day. So and of course that's with this 500 meter span system, so multiply by 3 and something to get to something for like a real scale, full scale system. So that's for Jenny, it's about 2,000 kilos per day, and then there's other moments when you just collect 500 kilos per day or something. So there's a lot of difference there where you are. So yeah, hopefully you can do the math based on those numbers. And yeah, what are we going to do with the plastic? So we over the past few years, actually, really since 2014, I think, we have been doing a lot of scientific research on the plastic, on the composition, and what we can do with that. And now we have set up a supply chain for both the nets as well as the rigids. So those are really the 2 big components of the catch. So there will be some losses, of course, but basically 95% of the plastic will be fed into the recycling process. So that's pretty neat. And so the sunglasses really were a proof of concept just to show we can make something out of this material. But we're not going to make more sunglasses with this material. We don't yet know what it's going to turn into. But what we care about is that it's going to be something that's sustainable, that's durable, that doesn't end up back in the ocean, and hopefully also give some more value so we can fund more cleanup using the plastic we've extracted. I hope you could hear that.
Florent, we'll take a short break. I think we can go back. Yeah, this is doable. Let's get back to the questions here under the canopy.
Thank you. Jennifer Pickford here from Pickford Productions. Just wondering if you can comment on any solutions that we might have for the worldwide plastic problem. How can we eliminate this problem at the source? I really appreciate what you folks are doing, but do you have any summations you've come up with through your research? Thank you.
Yeah, no, good question. So I think ultimately what we need is not one solution. We need a mix of different solutions to best tackle the problem. I think it's this portfolio approach. That means both cleanup and prevention, but also on the prevention side within that, I think you're going to see a mix of different solutions. So what our research has found is that most of the plastic is entering the oceans through rivers. So what we found is that 1% of rivers emits almost 80% of all the plastic going to the oceans. So for that, we have our interceptor program, where we're trying to intercept plastic in these heaviest polluting rivers before it reaches the oceans. But of course, even if you think beyond that, there are still some other sources. Of course, we have the fishing sources, which especially for the garbage patches is really dominant. It's really important. So so there, I think ultimately you're probably looking at some kind of either legislation or some kind of incentive to not lose fishing gear. I think that would really be a sort of a high impact thing to look at. I think if you think about how do we prevent stuff from even reaching or ending up in the rivers where we then have to intercept it, I think again, when you think about aluminium or aluminum, I think you call it here, there we see recycling rates of 90+% and equal numbers of collection. So, and the reason for that is that it's very energy intensive to make aluminium out of its ore. So it's actually a very expensive process. So it's much cheaper to reuse what already exists than to make new stuff. I think ideally we end up in a similar situation with plastic. I mean, plastic is not going away. There's a tremendous amount of use cases that humans just can't live without anymore, including this microphone and the cameras that you're looking through now. But I think the important point is that it doesn't become waste, and so hopefully by fixing these incentives, it will become more attractive to reuse the plastic that already exists rather than making new stuff.
Judith of Hakai Magazine. Can you tell us a little bit more about your interceptor program?
Yeah, of course. So, what we, so really, actually, from the very beginning of the Ocean Cleanup, we always had the plan to do both sides of the equation. So actually, if you go to our first bylaws, it was to prevent, extract, and intercept plastic pollution or something like that. So, so it's always been the plan at the beginning. We focused on the first few years. We really focused on this part because we felt it was just the most neglected part of the equation. I think there were already many people working on prevention, including on rivers actually, who've been doing great work. So we thought there's already some activity there. Let's focus on what nobody's doing. And then over time, I think 2015, we started with actual technology development there, and then unveiled it in 2019. So the idea there is to really try and intercept the plastic efficiently, effectively in the heaviest polluting rivers in the world. We now have 4 interceptors operational, and interceptors are basically solar-powered, automated devices which we put in the mouth of these rivers and catch the plastic before it becomes ocean plastic. We have them now in Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Dominican Republic. Number 5 is coming live really the next few days, also Malaysia. And yeah, the plan is, I think we should be roughly 10 by the end of the year. Then we'll do another sort of 15 if you include the Jamaica project as well. So next year, and then gradually ramp that up. And 1,000 rivers is a lot. We're equally like in oceans, we're still in a learning curve there to see how can we speed this up, how can we be smarter, how can we come across rivers now that we don't have solutions for yet. So we're also thinking about sort of expanding our interceptor portfolio in that sense. But yeah, I think very simply said, catching it where it's most concentrated, the mouth of those rivers, before it becomes ocean plastic. That's what we're trying to do with the interceptors.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Kieran and I'm with Victoria News. I was wondering if your goals before 2040 are going to mean anything for infrastructure development or employment here in Victoria or across Vancouver Island.
Hank, you'll take that?
So for us, Victoria is currently our operational base to deploy system number 2. As we move forward, we're going to first expand the size of the system, but thereafter we're going to multiply the amount of systems out there in the ocean. And we will need to be able to establish an operational base. And this area has proved to be suitable in the operations we've done thus far. So it's not unlikely that that could be in this area. I have to admit, in that domain, we have to do quite some research still about understanding, what are the possibilities here. But establishing a regional base somewhere near to the patch on the west side of either Canada or US are definitely part of the possibilities there.
Okay, there's another question coming. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Kate Hutchinson from CFAX. I'm wondering if the process disrupts marine life, and if so, what kind of mitigations are there for that?
Who wants to take it?
So one of the things we do before we go offshore is we do quite a bit of environmental research there. So we've conducted environmental impact assessment, which really makes us understand the risk profile of our operations, what mitigations we need to take, and how to monitor that offshore. Now, to give you some examples of the mitigations, first and foremost, our system operates at very slow speeds through the water. So that definitely allows marine life to get out of the way if it is there. And it also really reduces the risk on potential bycatch in that domain. Next to that, in the system, we have mitigation measures such as escape hatches, so that if marine life does enter into the system, they can escape via routes that are suitable for them. And we've seen during the offshore operation, we have continuous monitoring from protected species observers. And they really make sure that they report and research all this data we collect there to make sure if our operations are durable for the future there. And thus far, the results have been good. We have seen, like I mentioned, very promising results. We're going to publish the report after the completion of the research in the office, which is expected to be completed within the next 2 months. And thus far, like I mentioned, the bycatch figures we have been of a very low percentage, about 0.1 to 0.3% of the weight of the catch we have. And that is for multi-day tows, and there's been no loss of protected species during our operations there.
Actually, yeah, if you go to, I think our social media, we posted a video recently. It's quite neat where you see kind of the fish swimming in and swimming out again. It's really, I think the low speed really makes a difference. And also, I think when you look at the percentages, what's interesting is that the absolute amount kind of stays similar, regardless of how long the troll duration was. So I think when we really scale this up and we, so by the way, what likely, what we are hypothesizing is that maybe it's because you just the only thing where you see the fish not escaping is right at the moment when you pull the thing out of the water, and that's so every time we see kind of similar in numbers in absolute amounts. So the relative amounts should actually become a lot better once we do the longer tows, when we have bigger retention zone and things like that. So yeah.
Okay, the mic here is empty, so I'm quickly adding an online question that's coming in, which builds on this, Boyan. I'm going to give it to you. I read about Newston and the potential negative impact you could have on that. Did you encounter any Newston during your campaign?
Sorry. Yeah, so on the Newston, we've seen very little. We, of course, do see some. But if you look at the catch, and you can also see it in the videos, we're talking about grams, not tons. So if you compare it to the catch, it's very little. We also see very little concentration differences in front and behind the cleanup system. Of course, we need a lot more testing, ultimately. But of course, the whole reason why we do this at the ocean cleanup is to fix this ecosystem that is currently being damaged there. So So it's it's all about maximizing the net good that we do. And with that comes, as Hank said, a lot of study. We continue to observe this. We continue to do a lot more scientific research on this topic as well. But yeah, based on the initial observations, yeah, we haven't seen any sort of reason for concern that yeah, would have an impact on the operation at this moment.
Thank you, Boyan. There's another one coming here online. Can you give a sense of how many crew members were stationed on the vessels at once and what their average day at sea looked like?
So first of all, I have to admit I've never been on the Great Pacific Garbage Patch myself. So what a day looks like is really something they can better answer themselves, I believe. But in total, so we have 2 vessels here, and the total crew we have offshore is 40 people there. The majority of these are marine crews, so they're really focusing on the operation of the vessel itself, the handling of the system. But next to that, we also have project crew and environmental monitors on board, and they are really focused on collecting the right amount of data and really feeding this back to the organization. An average day for them is, thus far, there hasn't been an average day, I believe. During the test campaign, we really run multiple tests, so it's a lot also about deploying GPS trackers, for example, being out on small boats to really observe the system nearby. So thus far, it's been a lot of interaction and a lot of work for them. We do hope when we go to harvesting that their day-to-day business becomes a bit more predictable. Which means that we deploy the system when we arrive, we tow with the system, we extract the plastics every so often, and that would be the regular run-of-the-mill that they go through there.
Okay, there's one more question. Before I give you the floor, we are having some difficulties getting clearance on the tender, which is the vessel where we would invite you to come and watch the plastic. In the meantime, we will be setting up one-on-ones with Hank, Boyan, and other spokespersons. Rachel and Greg in the back there will be taking your calls. If you want a one-on-one with one of our spokespersons, please go to Rachel, and then I come back to you.
Okay, great, thanks. Judith Zabella, Hakai Magazine. The videos we see are impressive, right? You see these great, thousands of tons of plastic, but how do you feel about the mathematical modeling that shows you would have to work continuously to 2150 to clean even a fraction of 1% of the plastic oceans? And I'm just gonna add one more question to that. Have you thought about moving those millions of dollars into interceptor programs?
Yeah, well, good questions. I think on the first one, we get very, very clear. I mean, I'm not entirely sure which specific model you look at. I mean, there has been some, master student paper a few years ago, maybe. I remember seeing some numbers in there, but those numbers are clearly wrong. We're talking about 200,000 tons of plastic accumulated in the garbage patch, and if you just extrapolate the data that we have here, you would need 5 years to get half out of it. And of course, you have a sort of an asymptotal effect, right? So, so the more you take out, the less you can take out because the patch becomes less dense. But I think what's really probably an oversimplification that some people make is that you can just compare the inflow with the stock. So they say there's millions of tons of plastic flowing into the ocean every year, and you're taking out 29 tons now, so it's like a drop in the bucket. It's kind of a futile effort, right? So, but I think the key assumption that's kind of wrong there is that all that plastic just accumulates in the ocean. In fact, what we see, and by the way, I think if you look at the numbers of the tonnage flowing in, it's probably closer to 1 million than the tens of millions of tons that some organizations quote. All the recent modeling papers that also are calibrated with actual measurements in rivers, they're all kind of centered around 1 million tons. So, but for the sake of the argument, that doesn't really matter much. But most of that plastic, after flowing out of rivers, quickly beaches or sinks really within the next few days. So what we see is like within a month, it's about 80%. Within a year, it's like 97%. Actually, if you think about the absolute inflow into the garbage patches, that we're talking about maybe 2% per year growth. So you're talking about a few thousand tons max. You just need a few jennies, even at this scale, to outpace the inflow into the garbage patches. So I think what's really the crux here is that, yes, there's still a lot of plastic flowing out into the oceans, but most of it doesn't stay in the oceans for a very long time. But what does stay out of in the ocean, that continues to do harm for such a long time that even though in terms of absolute amounts it may not be so great, in terms of impact it's huge, because again, like even though it's just 29,000 kilos, that would still be 29,000 kilos 100 years from now. This stuff is super persistent, and so you have to take it out. So it's almost like two different problems, right? You have the sort of the coastal problem. Yeah, of course we're doing there with the rivers, and then you have the offshore problem, and you just need to do both. So I hope that clears that up.
Thank you, Boyan. I'm going to do one final question, and then we're going to end this live stream and the press conference. It was coming online, and there was one question that you didn't really address yet, so I'm going to bring it back to you and couple it to the question that just came in. The one question was, how much money will you need until 2040, coming from here? And then the other question is, how can we help you? That was coming in online here. So, go and give it to you. Yeah.
Yeah. So how much money we need? We don't know exactly yet. Actually, really don't know yet. It's and of course, I think one important point to make there is that the more systems you have out there, the quicker you can do it, right? So, and actually that doesn't make the cleanup more expensive, because most of the cost is in operation, not in hardware. So, if you want to go quicker, you can just deploy more systems at the same time, and of course your burn rate increases, but your total cleanup cost doesn't. So, so that could be an interesting thing to look at. But what is clear, is that we're going to need a lot more ultimately to clean the whole oceans. And I think, so coupling how can people help? I mean, we're always looking for smart people to join the team. So on our website, theoceancleanup.com, there's more information how to do that. We're always welcoming, more support, of course financial, but also in terms of spreading the word. I think, what we really need here is a movement to clean the ocean, and to demand that the ocean goes to where it used to be. So, so anything you can help with joining this mission, spreading the word, is also much appreciated.
Okay, thank you, Boyan. Thank you, Henk. Thank you all for coming, all for staying, the viewers online. It was great having you. We're ending the live stream now. There will be opportunities to meet people in person here after the program, and I close the live stream. Thank you, Florent.